actually, what the union did, what our union did, and you both know this, is that we actually spent some time in the last couple of years saying, okay, how do we do this right? And so we saw that you can't just take, we used to actually do what Rick suggested, finger point at administrators, say you're wrong, say you haven't done what you need to do. And actually we stopped that. And what we started doing instead was saying, let's figure out what is the right way to do this. And number one, we know that competence matters. Any school teacher you talk to will tell you that they want teachers teaching side by side with them who know their stuff and know how to engage kids and love kids. And so, you know, the first iteration that our union tried in terms of getting at this was through a peer review process. And some school districts did it and some school districts didn't. The second iteration in this generation that we've tried to do is that we said in January 2010, after a lot of work with our leaders and looking at evaluation systems, is that this drive-by evaluation of an administrator staying in your classroom for 20 minutes once a year, twice a year doesn't work. But also the test score evaluation doesn't work either. And particularly given that this generation of test scores don't actually align to what kids need to know and be able to do. Having said that, we need to have evaluations that both measure what teachers are doing in a classroom, how they engage, but also whether or not kids have learned. What am I teaching and whether or not kids have learned? And so we've actually tried to come up with a framework that does that includes, to some extent, you all know this because this is the only thing that got any attention, that includes student learning and test scores, but also includes practice. And there are about 100 districts, including, you know, Pittsburgh and Hillsborough and others, that are using this kind of evaluation system. It's very different than Impact in two respects. Number one, the system we're talking about is not simply about sorting, it is primarily about supporting teachers to grow their craft. And number two, it is something that was done with teachers, not to teachers.
So if you got your ideal system in place, Randi, in one of these cities, at the end of the day, it goes through, it doesn't just sort, it supports all of that, but still there's going to be some teachers that don't make the grade.
Absolutely right.
I mean, what would you guess? Is that 5% of the teachers, 10%?
Look, you know,
in a typical district? And
frankly, if I came up with a factor, if I said any percentage like that, the blogs all around town tomorrow is going to be, Weingarten says X percentage of teachers should be fired.
Right, so they're hoping they'll do it.
So the answer is.
So look, what happens if you have a really good evaluation system that has credibility, and all of a sudden 2 teachers are fired in a district, or 2,000 teachers are fired? The real issue becomes, is there credibility for that system? And frankly, that's what we need. And we're in a huge R&D process right now, and I think that the bottom falling out of the economy and of school, state, and local budgets is actually going to make this worse, not better. About a year or two ago, I was much more optimistic that we could do this because this is really time intensive. And any principal who doesn't say that is someone who's not telling the truth. It is, if you actually want to spend some time really doing good evaluations, a principal has to, or whoever the mentor is or whoever the evaluator is, you sit with the teacher. You say, okay, what are you trying to accomplish in this lesson? You watch the lesson. You sit with somebody after the lesson, say, did we accomplish that? You then talk about what else you need to do. You look at student data to say, did kids actually get what I was trying to teach? Was there that kind of engagement? Yep. So the real issue, the issue that's never on the table here, is that if we want to have really good evaluation systems like they do in Singapore, which is about continuous improvement, yes, it's about sorting people that ought not be in the profession, and that due process procedures have to be really quick. But if you really want to do this right, it takes a lot of time, and that kind of time costs money, and that is where we're going to find that investment to do that.
Make it quick.
So
Okay, 2 points. One, I think the issue here is like the one we raised before, that when it comes to the evaluation as a formative tool, absolutely, I think there's a hugely constructive role for dealing teachers in, and I think systems in which especially using today's relatively crude value-added metrics, incorporating that without building these systems so that they rest on that is smart and healthy. But I think, just like we talked about before, there are also things that teachers are just going to resist. I think when we start talking about using those even thoughtfully constructed systems to terminate teachers, the nature of a union is it doesn't represent the good teachers. Its legal responsibility to represent all teachers who are members, and it is simply difficult to convince, I think, all teachers that to be enthusiastic about removing low performers. So I think there is going to be much more room for collaboration on the formative side of it than on the removal side.